money and finance is intensely personal. And when you can use money as a tool to craft your personal journey or your financial future, it opens doors to many things. And if you can harness some of those dynamics, you can create really interesting changes in the way that people make decisions about their lives, about the jobs that they take, about the industries that they work on. And I wanted to be part of that.
Mel, welcome to Live Long and Prosper. You and I talk about fintech and consumers and strategy and marketing all the time. But this time it's in front of an audience. So you ready for it?
On the show that we created together.
Yeah, so much fun. It's so great to have you on. Let's start with you first. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey to CMO of Arta Finance?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off in advertising. I went to Google at an early age. I've worked in a couple of places. I started off in Sydney. I went to Singapore, the US, and then came back here. During our time at Google together, we just had such an amazing time creating these products for audiences that had never really experienced what it was like to have a Google-built product built from scratch. And one of our first challenges together was this product called Taze. It was a payments product built from the ground up for emerging markets. And we started in India. And at the time, it was just very much a challenge of how to get digital payments and technology in the hands of people whose 100% was their lives were focused on cash, right? And that gave us and me the bite of fintech. When you first approached me to do payments at Google, I was not that interested.
You weren't very excited.
No.
You were like, payments? I do consumer stuff. I build beautiful things. What's beautiful about this?
But what was crazy about that brief was that money and finance are, when you put them together, they can create really interesting dynamics. And as a marketer, seeing what the relationship is with people and money, and then turning that into either products or ecosystems or dynamics, it's like catnip for a marketer, right?
And it's such a core need for everyone, right?
Yeah.
We all like money, health, these kinds of things, and apply technology to it.
It's basically using one of the great forces in the world to make very interesting societal and economic change. So anyway, there was that time where we were creating Taze, which blew up, became Google Pay, and then of course within Google Pay, it wasn't just a payments app.
Blew up in a good way.
So yeah, it blew up in a good way. It blew up our lives in an amazing way, right? But that astronomical growth within Google Pay gave us a chance to run like a very interesting consumer business, but not just a consumer business, but a B2B business as well. And that, of course, within Google gave us the opportunity to get into credit. It gave us an opportunity to get into lending, into the fringes of banking or the outskirts of banking, and rethinking about how money impacts our lives, and how we can use money in a way that is that can be an accelerator to all the things that you want to do in your life. Yeah, and so that's how.
So how do you go from like that peak of Google and money and Google Pay and doing product that's going crazily well to the startup, Arta Finance?
Well, when we were in the thick of it, there was some crazy highs, right? And being responsible for one of the flagship products at Google, it comes with immense responsibility. And as a result, you end up making decisions that are responsible. You make up decisions that are very, very good for the company, good for the users, good for the industry overall. And we felt that I felt that I had ticked off that box in many ways, right? And then when you approached me to do Arta, I was a bit at a professional crossroads. I had 2 babies. I had created very interesting products at Google, one of which, of course, was with you at Google Pay, but I had done consumer in retail. I had done B2B and programmatic advertising. I had done a bunch of these kind of very big, responsible scaled ecosystems. And I had to ask myself, like, could I do this again outside Google, right? Without the Google brand name, without the Google budgets? Could I test myself as a marketer, as a product marketer, as somebody who loves the intersection of finance and technology? Could I create something outside of that? And so when you asked me, can we do this together? It was the right time for me. It was the right time in where we had left the finance team at Google for us to see whether we could test ourselves on something new.
It's been fun. So let's talk about this, the mission. I won't ask you the Arta mission because you helped frame it, you helped define it. It's stuff we built together. But what drew you to that mission? Why did you define it the way it is, and what is it?
Well, one of the things we've learned in all our years of working together is that money and finance is intensely personal. And when you can use money as a tool to craft your personal journey or your financial future, it opens doors to many things. And if you can harness some of those dynamics, you can create really interesting changes in the way that people make decisions about their lives, about the jobs that they take, about the industries that they work on. And I wanted to be part of that. So Arta's mission of being able to unlock these financial superpowers that you would get if you were part of a private bank or if you had a lot of money to millions more people meant that economic access and opportunity would be available to more people. And who doesn't want to be a part of that, right?
Absolutely. Clearly we do. So how have you seen this mission evolve, and how have you seen it come to life over the last few years?
So when we first started Arta, we were just thinking, like, how do we make the functionality of a private bank just more digital, more easy, more seamless, and all that kind of stuff? But we dug a little bit further, right? We realized that there was a step change we could create. It's not just about creating a pretty interface behind getting people access to private markets or managing their public portfolio and seeing the pretty graphs and things like that all in one place. It was more than that. It was actually changing the way that people interact with their investing. And so when we were in that shop house together, brainstorming about like what it would be like for the future of money or the future of what the future investing would look like. Yes, there was a UI component, but there was also like, let's build this from the ground up. Let's go from first principles of what it means to invest and think about your future in a very holistic way, right? So fast forward to when we first launched in the US, we were launched with a comprehensive wealth platform that helped people get access to private credit, private equity, all the asset classes that they hadn't had access to before, and then do public markets in a very intelligent, smart way, right? A very automated way. And then also get them access to, the family office services, the expert services they need on trust and estate or insurance and that kind of thing. And I think that was a big learning for us because we realized that the comprehensive wealth platform, where there are no gatekeepers to these very advanced products, yet the education and the hand-holding that you might need and the guidance that you might need from experts at the same place, that was a really powerful idea. And now with the launch of our business globally through Singapore just a couple of weeks ago, we've done another step change again, which is that idea of applying AI and technology to really change the game on how you actually ask for ideas. The ideation and the creation of new portfolios, or how you think about the way that your workflow, like getting a regular recap on your portfolio, or think about some of the automations that you can do between the money that you get from your fixed income all the way through to like how you want to fund your capital calls for private equity. Like that's the kind of stuff that is enabled through technology that we've been able to use to deploy first by creating access and the platform, the comprehensive wealth platform itself, layering on that UX of understanding how people make decisions and how you would go around creating your own portfolio, and then using AI to supercharge your decision making and figure out how to make it uniquely yours, i.e. that idea around a portfolio of one.
So Mel, Arta is a fintech company, but a large part of it is tech, and many of the team come from tech. How does a tech company break into finance and have credibility when they're talking to people who've been deep in finance for a long time?
Yeah. We often get told from many of our members that we are a breath of fresh air. And we kind of lean in on that, right? We are a breath of fresh air because we don't do things a certain way that is expected. We put technology first. We don't have gatekeepers. So you can have a look at any of the investments without needing to go through a person or a relationship manager. We treat finances as if it's a fun thing to do. It's not a scary thing. And so all of these impressions lead to people thinking that we're just a breath of fresh air in a world that hasn't changed a lot over the past few decades. And that new approach comes from the fact that we are at our heart, and our origination is from tech. In tech, we experiment. We help people understand first principles when we develop a product, or when we launch a go-to-market movement. We are thinking about, like, what does a user see? How do they feel when they come through the door? Which journey would they pick? What kind of choices are they making? And so that kind of user-first thinking that is very uniquely tech helps us in a world where finance is all about choices. Finance is all about trade-off.
And how do you add the credibility that to the financial industry, that you come from tech and, the team actually knows what they're talking about? Are you taking finance seriously enough?
Well, with Arta anyway, we are all about trust. We are all about figuring out how to help people understand that we're here for the long run, that we have a very robust system and a very robust approach to finance and managing money. And so some of that, of course, is in the experience of the team. Some of it is in the influence of our backers and the connections that we have with the industry. Some of it is actually in the systems that we build. Our team has been very well known for building very robust systems that move trillions of dollars around the world with high degree of uptime and the kind of security systems that you would expect. It's not just bank level security, it's security at the highest level. And so we make sure that people understand the kind of thoughtfulness that we've put behind our tech and infrastructure stack. The next, of course, is by partnering very closely with the industry. Like, we are not renegades here that are trying to rip up the floorboards and just make everything in the image of how we think it should be. There are some really amazing learnings and very deep expertise within the financial industry that we want to bring out. And so we partner very closely with banks, financial institutions, with the experts in our field to make sure that we're taking we're representing the way that the age-old things that have worked and do good things for people. And so that's how we're trying to help people understand that as a wealth manager, not only do we take the technology and the infrastructure really seriously, and we've created really robust systems, but that we're bringing the best of finance and the best of what money can do for you, and just put that together.
Yeah, absolutely. The expertise, the trust that we build, the security, and all of that stuff coming together. You talked a little bit about the team, and I know you formed your marketing team very deliberately and carefully. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about how you've thought about putting together the whole go-to-market team and effort and pulling the right set of people together?
Yeah. So we touched a little bit on it's kind of difficult to market financial products. It can be because we're in a regulated industry, and of course, the business of wealth management is not something just to take lightly. It's a very responsible business, and it is a very it's something where you shouldn't be making mistakes. We've been very thoughtful about the way that we do marketing. Yes, we want people to understand what these financial products are about, how to make investments, how to think about investments, how to think about long-term planning, all of that good stuff. But it's more than just education. It's about motivation, right? So for a marketing team that is trying to change the way people relate to finances, we had to be very deliberate about who we brought on. Of course, the content side of things, the educational side of things, being able to approach people in plain language. We have a very strong content team that takes these very hard to understand terms and turns them into human understandable language and videos and illustrations and ways to help people grok what this is all about. We have a growth team that really understands human psychology and choice architecture. that helps people make decisions on which products to choose, or helps people get to the information quicker or faster or easier. That same growth team also thinks about, when is the right time to send messages to different people, how to motivate them in a way to take the next step. So there's a huge growth side of things. And then our creative team and our brand team is really there to help people understand who Arta is, what is the Arta story, our unique approach, and communicate that in a way that is visual and appealing and fun. And then our product marketing teams are the ones that are really thinking about these investment products and distilling that into insights that we can communicate. So helping people, again, with that base level of understanding. So between product marketing, growth marketing, creative marketing, content, that's how we've really formed the crew. And we are a global marketing team. So we run a bunch of this out of Singapore, and we run a bunch of it out of the Bay Area in California. And we think about trading off between the different locations and the different functions so that we can deliver a very cohesive experience.
Yeah, it's best of both worlds.
That's
across
right.
both coasts. Mel, you've also been an architect of Arta's culture, and often people, our team, others talk about how strong Arta's culture is, how it's one of the things that they enjoy about the company. Can you talk a little bit about the culture and what you see it and how you've defined it?
Yes, we have to be very intentional about our culture. We have to communicate it out. We have to demonstrate it. At the end of the day, our culture principles come from the fact that we just want to work with our friends and work with the people who, bring out the best in us. And over many years, you and I have worked together for many years, and a bunch of us have worked together in various different situations. We've been able to articulate what has made that special and what has made that being able to work with your friends work in a professional environment. And some of it are things like being able to create a culture of high trust. I have a certain expertise, you have a certain expertise, and we need to trust each other in order for us to bring out the best in each of our respective areas, right? And some of it is in the way that we communicate. Some of the other principles are like how we come to a conclusion, or how we figure out decision making. And so these kind of principles, we've written them down. We've created a shared understanding, a shared language behind how we do things here. So part of building a company, it's not just about defining what we do, what the roadmap is, or what the OKRs that we're doing, what we hope to accomplish, and the impact. It's about how we do things. And sometimes that's more important than anything. Who was it that says culture eats strategy for breakfast?
I think that was Ben Horowitz, yeah.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true.
Proven true time and time again when we work together.
Absolutely. So, one of the things I've seen you do incredibly well that I'd love for you to talk a little bit about for our audience is you've taken these very sophisticated, in many cases complex financial powers, like financial products and superpowers, and we've brought them to people who have never known about it in the past. How have you accomplished that? I mean, can you talk a little bit about how you've thought about it, how you approached it?
I can really just reflect on my own journey. I mean, before we really started getting into finance and getting into scoping out Arta, I was one of them. I'm university educated. I've worked at Google. I've performed at like a fairly high business acumen level. But at the same time, my finances, I would still be managing them like I was in my 20s. And so when it comes to unpacking the problem of how to explain a very complex financial product to somebody like me, I just kind of drew on my own experience of what would it take me to understand that. I mean, there's no real playbook. It's about empathy. It's about understanding and putting yourself in the shoes of somebody like me, or somebody like our friends, or perhaps even a few degrees removed, like our dentist, or,
So maybe dive a little bit deeper in what's the one or two really things that blew your mind about these personal financial superpowers over the last 2 years? What have you learned? You're like, wow, I didn't even know about that.
The first thing was that there are so many tools that you could access that have more to do with balancing risk and return than you get when you are a retail investor. The universe opens up. There are different asset classes. There are different structures. There are different ways that you can apply insurance. There are all these different tools that you can use to construct your portfolio. And it's like the gates open up, right? The second thing that really surprised me was, even though your universe expands, the vehicle in which you can navigate that universe also supercharges as well. So it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be this very magical experience that is like a black box, right? The tools that we can create and the tools that the finance industry uses to manipulate these very advanced, sophisticated products, can be built and can be made simple for people. And it's just a matter of connecting those two things together.
And how do you think this industry has evolved in the last 3 years that you've been seeing it, right? Like, as you've been seeing all of these financial products being brought to users, where has it come to and where do you see it go?
I think there are a couple of trends that Arta is at the intersection of, and which makes this business incredibly interesting. I mean, the one is that people today are so much more better informed than they used to be. The access to knowledge of like understanding these different asset classes or financial tools, getting inspiration from other people, like that access to knowledge is just so much more. It's just easier to get to. So people are just better informed. They have opinions. They form opinions. They learn very quickly, and they understand the beat very, very quickly. The second big trend that we're seeing is people are waking up to the idea that there are other asset classes beyond public markets, stocks, ETFs, bonds that they can get access to. So the rise in alternatives, the rise in private markets has just been like an amazing thing to see, and it's great that Arta gives access to these very powerful asset classes. And the third is really around this idea of like consumer expectations and what people like you and I really expect out of our financial apps and services these days. We expect it to be real time. We expect it to be available wherever we are. We expect it to feel good and look good and be a pleasure to use. And we expect it to be social. And all of these things, these three areas have informed the way that we've designed the product, and we've designed our own marketing and go-to-market movements. And we only expect these trends to really continue, right? To the point where, like, a portfolio that is really uniquely personalized to you and is given to you in the way that you want is very much within our reach.
So what would be a prediction for, say, 3 years or 5 years? Where do you see us? Where do you see us? Where do you see the industry getting to?
I think that we will see consumer sentiment and client demands really push the industry forward. The world is waking up. The world knows that the way that personal finance, investing, high finance has been done in the past is ready for a change. And people are going to walk with their wallets. People are going to walk with their money. And so I think in the next few years, we are going to see a very pronounced shift towards companies that understand users, understand investors and what they want, and give them what they want. The second big shift that we're going to probably see is the lowering of costs in this industry. There are just astronomical fees in this industry that have supported a lot of the infrastructure that has supported a lot of the way that businesses have been run. And you're seeing companies like ours figure out ways of hacking that in a way that we're delivering an amazing experience and the same kind of services that you would expect at these traditional financial industry institutions, but at a much lower cost, at a much higher degree of personalization. And then I guess that's the last one. The third is personalization. I do really think that everybody's portfolio should be different. Everybody's financial strategy should be different. And now we have the tools. Now we have the technology. Now is the time that you can finally get that very unique strategy built just for you.
Yeah. And how do you see AI playing into all of this?
The big question, right? Massively, of course.
$1 billion question.
The $1 trillion question. Yeah. The $1 trillion question. Of course, AI is going to play a major role in this. I mean, just in the last 2 years alone, with the rise of Gen AI, not to mention the impact that traditional AI has had on finance in the past 10, 15 years with quant strategies and quant hedge funds and and the way that people have been applying machine learning to finance, I mean, that has already had a huge impact, right? Now we're seeing the last 2 years, the potential for Gen AI to really then take some of the effects of high finance and make it available to millions more, right? And not just available, but personalized. Yeah, getting a front row seat to like doing that here at Arta and seeing what the industry is doing, it just feels like the whole industry is at that kind of moment of inflection where like the technology is ready, the use cases are there, and we're building for it. And we're seeing consumer adoption now, we're seeing investor adoption now. So, the role of AI cannot be understated.
That's very exciting. Let's switch a little bit from Arta and industry to you, right? I'd love for you to talk about your journey as in the world and how you've advanced in finance and how you think about the next generation. I know you're a very proud parent and you want to like do the best for your children. And how do you want to help them? Like, what is it that you've learned that you want to give to them as they're growing up in their lives about finances, about all of the stuff you've gone through?
A big part of the reason why we started Arta was because we wish that we had the tools available to us that we have now back when we were in our 20s, back when we were just first earning. So being able to give people these tools at a much younger period in their lives so that as they implement them, as they use them, their money compounds, right? That is probably the thing I wish the most. The second thing I really wish the most is that money isn't scary. We grew up with cultural backgrounds where money was a thing that you had to treat with extreme caution, right? It's not something that it's something that is only left to the pros. And now, like I said, with a lot of the advances in how people learn and how people get access to information, you have the ability to do so. You have the ability to make very purposeful, intentional, informed decisions about your money that you didn't used to have. So what I wish for my children and what I wish for future generations to come is that empowerment, the ability to think that, yes, I've got this. Money isn't scary. I have the tools and the resources and the information I need within my reach to do what I want with my money. And then secondly, to get those financial superpowers that ultra wealthy people have in the hands of people who are much younger.
That's so exciting. That's so exciting. Okay, couple of questions and then we'll close with a lightning round. What's the piece of advice you would give to yourself when you were starting out your career based on everything you know today?
That everything is relative.
All right. Most of what you know today.
Everything is relative. Like what seems like a success when you're in a certain environment tends sometimes to be bigger than it actually was, and sometimes even conversely, something that seems like a failure actually wasn't such a big deal. So everything feels very relative. And so, like as a junior marketer, the mistakes that you make or like as somebody who is a perfectionist at heart, sometimes you have to step back and give yourself the perspective that, was that really a mistake or not?
Yeah, only time will tell.
Only time will tell.
Okay. Thank you, Mel. Let's end with a quick lightning round of questions. I'm going to ask you 3 questions.
Right.
One sentence and then fill in the blanks.
It's much scarier being on the opposite end of this, actually. Usually I'm the one coming up with the questions.
Okay. It is true. All right. If you wanna prosper, never underestimate the power of
resilience.
Resilience.
Sometimes it's just the hard work that you put in and trying again, even though maybe your first time just didn't work out.
Yep. The 3 key ingredients for a long, fulfilling life are ... and ...
Prioritization.
Wow. Okay.
A big part of it is like knowing what's important to you. The second would be energy, managing your energy, figuring out what you get energy from. And the last, of course, is family.
It's beautiful. The simple joy that adds years to your life is?
Surrounding myself with people who give me energy.
So true. And thank you for being that for so many people. I think with that, Mel, thank you for being on the podcast that you created. So thanks a lot.
And thank you for starting Arta and for the amazing journey that we are on.
Thank you.